What's that song, Benny?
Broken Wings by Mr. Mister?
Mr. Thank you. Oh, I couldn't remember that. Did they do Lady in Red?
Oh,
No,
man.
they
No.
didn't.
That.
No.
Now you got me checking. Oh, come on,
Okay, you're
Pat.
going to have to check. You're going to have to check. Because I'm channeling Princess Di right here. Just giving Meghan Markle just like a
Yeah, that
high
was
five.
Krista Berg was Lady in Red.
I think
Very similar era, though. 80s.
Princess Di is like, you go, Meghan. You go. I got your back, girl. Welcome back, everybody. A little sidebar there because that's just the way I roll. Hey, I want to just say we're taking your calls, and Charlene will get right to you. 1-800-930-2819. And then Jacob is watching Facebook. So if you put stuff over there, he's going to tell me. Energy healing for trauma, stress, and chronic illness. And I'm sure that if any of my colleagues in the field of psychology listen to this and listen to me call this a thing, I am sure I'm going to get letters. But I don't really care because we're in a world now where we have to be straight shooters with people. Cyndi, how do we get a copy of this book? But please, my God, your books are incredible. We can get everything from somewhere. I don't know where, though.
They're all on my site. The links are on my site. I have Subtle Body Encyclopedia, the Subtle Body Workbook, Spiritual Empathy. I mean, it's just sort of all there, cindydale.com. And this particular book, Energy Healing for Stress, Trauma, and Chronic Illness, is my most recent. And I think it does put almost everything together. It talks about how your intuition, kind of impacts, kind of your sense of things and what happens when you go into shock and, how do you come out of all this as well? I think that's equally important. It's like, oh my gosh, now I know why I feel buried, or now I know why I feel triggered when this or this happens, but what do I do? So it's got a lot of exercises in there to help people with that too.
So I interviewed you. And I actually brought you back a couple of times because I was so fascinated. And I'm going to digress for a minute because I want people to have a little bit more understanding of the body of work you do. At least I would like them to know a little bit more. But I remember way back, and I can't remember exactly where it was, but I think it was your first book. Cyndi, what was your first book? Do you remember? Because
well, I know it's hard. It's 27 books in. It was called New Chakra Healing, that it was changed to the complete book of chakra healing. And then I came out with Advanced Chakra Healing and Chakras for Money and Relationships. And we just had a chakra thing going for a long time.
Yeah. And then the Intuition Guidebook too.
I love the Intuition.
I love the Intuition Guidebook. That is like a must for everybody. But here's the thing I want to say. This is really tough for people to get through. You're not just an author, but you have put yourself out there to say, I'm Cyndi Dale. And by the way, Cyndi, I need to spell it for you guys. Cyndi Dale. That's the website, just in case you're spelling Cyndi like a whole different way. When you go there, it's not just about let's get a book. But you can begin the journey. You can book a session, right? You can look at some of the other things Cyndi is doing and become part of learning so that you could pay this forward. We are in a pay it forward time. We're in a pay it forward time. We're actually planning to do something we've never done before because our network is going from 1 channel to 10 this year. Our technology is done. Our rebranding will be under the Transformation Network. And people, Cyndi, look at me and they say, why? Why don't you just go be Dr. Pat? Why are you investing more money? Why? And my answer used to be this big, long explanation. And I want to talk to you about this because it ties right into the book. Guilt and shame and the nervous system. Now, when people ask me that, I say, why not? And I used to before, well, it's because this, it's because the world needs more positive messages. And I want to ask you this question, and then we'll go to Charlene. Subtle stressors. We don't give them enough airtime because they're subtle. subtle doesn't mean weak or less powerful, does it?
No, in fact, it's the opposite. The subtle is the stuff that builds up. The subtle is what we're constantly noticing with our intuition, even if we don't pay attention to it. The subtle is what our energy fields are bringing into us. But if somehow we haven't raised our consciousness to it or trained our brain to notice it, we just react to it. So, it's kind of like you walk into a room. You can walk into a room one day and go, gosh, I feel kind of creepy. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I feel weird. Maybe you find out that, somebody just had an argument in there 2 hours ago, versus you walk into that same room another time and you're like, gosh, I feel really happy. Maybe there were people in that room not too long ago who, kind of got along really well. We are open systems. This skin means nothing. I mean, it cuts easy enough, but you extend so far beyond, kind of what we call the physical. 99 etc% of reality is subtle. And we're constantly reacting to it, responding to it. We're even sending messages into the world to tell people how to treat us, but we don't know what we're saying. We don't know we're telling them, if you're looking for a patsy, I'm the one. We don't know we're saying that. We don't know that's what they're reading. We don't, we're not responsible for all that because we kind of, we earn this from our ancestors. We absorb when we're growing up. We take in what's around us because that's safety and that's survival, but that's subtle. And so we are responsible to start figuring it out, and figure out what we want to take in and what we want to give out.
Yeah. And, part of this too, we're going to talk about it as we roll, but I want to bring Charlene on because I always learn so much from our fabulous, we have the best listeners on the planet, but part of this too is hearing each other's perspective. Benny, why don't we bring Charlene on?
Hello.
Hi, Charlene. How are you?
I'm fine. Hello. Hello, ladies.
How are you today? How can we help you?
I'm just bouncing back from a bit of fatigue. I work for one of the largest, I think, if not the largest wholesale company in the world. So I see thousands of people a day, more so than even somebody working in a hospital through this pandemic. And I'm the last person that they see when they leave. And I'm an energy worker. And so for the most part, I try to cloak my energy and ground myself before I go in. But to be honest, I find it very challenging through this pandemic because of the reactions, and you can feel other people's energies coming at you. So I was just wondering, and I'm excited because now that I have your website, Cyndi, I can actually go and order some of your books and maybe contact you personally. I'm really excited because I'm interested in training in the energy field, like getting a certification. Like I work with auras, and I've worked with Reiki healers here in my hometown in Canada. So this is really exciting for me.
Wow.
You're already well on the road. Good for you. And that's part of why you can tell, when, somebody's, scared and it's coming at you, or maybe they're acting angry, but they're really scared, or they're pulling energy. I'm sure that's something you found, Charlene, too, that it's not only what's coming into us.
Right.
Sometimes we use the word vampire. I think that's a little unfair, to be honest. But
because I love vampires. I'm not sure what that's about. I'm just saying.
I know. I think they've got something going for them. They live a long time too. But but there are people who they don't know it, but their only way of surviving on an unconscious level is to pull life energy or the light, from other people. They might be visible or invisible.
Yeah.
Kind of souls too. So you're quite heroic.
I was going to say that, Charlene. I mean, I can hear your strength in your voice. I could also hear the weariness. And I'm so glad you called in.
I'm looking to retire from the job that I'm at and slowly ease myself into the energy healing.
Sweet.
Because I've actually, a lot of the people that shop where I work already know that I'm a healer, and even the people that I work with, they need help. And so if I fork off into a different direction, I will be not only helping myself, but helping others.
Sounds like you have an inbuilt client system too. So, and all I would
do.
add is,
I was just, Cyndi, that was brilliant. But isn't there also a way of Charlene working with you? Let me see if I use the right term, to help her create energetic, let's call it an energetic force field.
Yes.
Somehow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I have a strong auric force field. I know Dr. Pat has me on her Facebook. I do tarot readings. I do all kinds of different things. I work with crystals. I've done it for decades. I've never done it for money. And this would be a whole new ballgame for me. But I want to learn. I want to learn from as many people as possible. I'm open-minded, and I have an open heart.
Well, I have classes. There's a lot of good teachers out there too. I'd say the most important thing, just kind of off the cuff here intuitively, is just make sure you're filling yourself back in. Get outside, get to know the subtle elements, fire, wood, metal, all of those can be brought in, just with your imagination, with your intuition to fill you in. So if you give out that much, which you do, and have to fend off as frequently as you must, it's all about the filling in. It's all about, kind of, and you can even open up like the very center of your heart chakra that's in the middle of the chest. We have an inner chakra wheel. There's an outer chakra wheel. That inner one, I like to tell people, you don't have to have a big understanding of it. That inner wheel opens to universal energy, much like the Reiki energy or a scientific type of light called absolute light. They're a real light that has no darkness. So I like to work with the insides of my chakras and pull through what I need, bring it through my system so I'm shining like the sun. And there ain't nothing going to get into the sun. And it's not supposed to get in there.
No.
Like a real sun or a star. So there's some very easy thoughts like that I would work with if I were you too.
And there's some healers too that also have told me to do the opposite of cloaking myself in the light, rather to extend my auric field out to the universe, because the universe is infinite, and that draws in more energy.
Yeah.
So that I don't feel so depleted.
Well, what I want to say, here's what I want to recommend you do. As soon as you can, get on Cyndi's calendar, because here's what I've learned in 17 years. And prior to doing this show, I just want to tell you, I didn't know nothing about any of this. When people talked about energy, I thought they were talking about some lamp you plug in a socket. And so here's what I've learned over time, Charlene. We're not a one size fits all. I recommend you get on Cyndi's calendar so she can very specifically map something out for you.
Yes, right? That sounds perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to have a game plan that works for you. Not everybody likes tuna fish. I'm just saying. Well, I think everybody likes tuna fish. But what I'm trying to say is your situation changes on a day-to-day basis. And you're going to need something that's powerfully adaptive. Okay. Cyndi, how do people get a hold of you? Because we didn't tell them how to do that.
Cyndi, it's just on my website, cindidale.com, CYNDIDALE. Everything's right there in one place.
Okay. Thank you, Charlene. You're such an inspiration.
You really are such too. I'm just excited.
You, Charlene. You're such an inspiration. You have no idea how many people have just heard you that are perhaps feeling the same way and don't have a way to go or don't know what to do. And just by having the courage to call in and put yourself in front of us and this audience, you are truly what we need. And so I appreciate you. Thank you for calling in.
I appreciate you too, both of you. Thank you.
You bet, Charlene. Thank you. Look, in the book, and I want to get here, I want to go from subtle stressors for the time we have left, Cyndi, to chronic illness, because it took me getting chronically ill to figure out there was a connection. But not only does your book do that, you have a chapter or a section in the book that's called Subtle and Physical Together. Subtle and Physical Together. I have my notes right here, but I also have the book, Subtle and Physical Together. And you talk us through what the basics of chronic illnesses are. But again, this is not a one size fits all, right?
It's never a one size fits all. It just isn't. And I write books that are about systems and structures, and here's your chart and here's your diagram. And you already said that. And then I like to tell people, learn a little bit of that, set it aside and go with what feels right to you. Go with your intuition, do your own deep dive. We know deep inside of our soul what's happened to us, and we may need to kind of play it out that way as well, because the subtle and the physical do come together. And so by the time somebody has a chronic illness, and there's so many of them, especially if you throw in, depression or anxiety and some of these, chronic pain, etc., you've been impacted physically and you've been impacted subtly. And the two are sort of meshed. You're kind of trapped. So your physical body probably has microbes. It has, any number of stress reactions you're not getting out of. You're producing too many of the excitatory hormones, but then you're also exhausted because you can't keep that up. You have too many what they call mast cells, MAST. Those are immune cells that produce reactions in the body, so you get inflammation. So you're sort of like just jagged inside. But you also are most likely holding other people's subtle energies, their issues, their feelings, their problems, memories of that, different forces and what got sort of stuck in the body, plus your own feelings that you've never gotten to process about what you've gone through. So in the end, I reduce everything for a chronic illness down to there's a part of you that's kind of trapped. You're stuck in a shock bubble. And that part of you is still going through an original challenge or thing or trauma, and the body's reacting to it. You're still bringing in subtle energies that might be perpetuating it. So you can find that self. You don't even have to have all the data all the time, but you can uncover that self and very lovingly, like bring him, bring her, bring them, kind of back into your day-to-day self. So that's what we're aiming at underneath everything.
And the reason I bring it up, and I want to just jump right to this, because one of the least understood energies and one of the more common energies is, and I talk about this in my book, it's called resentment. It is a word that doesn't get used that often, but it describes a lot. And most of the time we call it a subtle energy. But there's a quote, and it's this: resentment is the number one offender. If resentment is the number one offender, then who knows what the bleep impact that is having on us. And we don't fully understand what resentment is, but we know when we got it. We know, like when our sister or brother calls us and they start about mom's this or mom's that, and we can feel ourselves, right?
It's true. And there's kind of two sides to it.
Yeah.
Self-resentment, which sometimes we call regret, which is like, I wish I had done things different, or I wish I hadn't married that third man, or I wish I hadn't done this and that, so that we hold that against ourselves. And then we have the projected regret onto others, or the resentments, like, I wish they had been different, or I wish they hadn't said this, or I wish my mom had never, kind of met that guy or this or that. And it just sticky energy inside of us, isn't it? It's sticky. And most of us don't like to work through resentments because, I remember when I worked on it in therapy, I'll say it this way. I walked around like an ogre for 6 months. Like I was just mean and mad, and I let myself feel my resentments. Like, I wish that person wasn't like this, or why did they take my parking spot? I was just a monster, but I had just I just had opened up everything that was in there. I did somewhat refrain from actually taking that out on too many people in my current life, may I say, because we have to watch out for that. While we set up boundaries, while we figure out how to, not just fall down the same hole that we always did. But we got to clear that stuff out. We have to lead toward forgiveness, which is another one of those words people don't like, because it's sort of like, why do I have to forgive? They were the jerk. But, really forgiveness is more about letting go and getting out of the pattern. It's just about saying, I'm putting this somewhere else. I'm not doing this anymore. It's really about us being done with a pattern and our part of the pattern is what it is.
And I don't know about you, but you in the book, you cover everything. And I have to tell you that we didn't get to talking about one of my favorite, and I hope you'll come back. It's technique number 13 in your book, The 5 Stages to Healing a Traumatized Self. And, that is, to me, if you all listening, take one thing away, what I want to leave you with, and I want to hear what Cyndi wants to leave you, there is a healing that is right there for you. There is a healing. Even if you're feeling like there isn't and you've lost hope. And my morning that I described is like every morning for you. There is a way out. And Cyndi, thank you for today. I'd love to know your personal message. There is a way out for people.
There is a way out, and you're probably already halfway down that tunnel. You probably are. Sometimes we can't see the end of the tunnel because it's right around the corner. Sometimes we have our eyes shut. Sometimes we're not used to seeing that there's a light right there. So feel it in your heart. That's what I would say. Know that you've already been working with yourself. You're already doing the healing work. Start owning it, feel it in your heart. And that little bit of joy that you can get and self-satisfaction will help you complete your healing.
I love it. Cyndi, again, thank you. How will people get a copy of your book? And please tell folks. And what do you want to leave us with? What's your personal message?
If you can't hold hope for yourself, let somebody else do it. Reach out, especially during a pandemic, especially during this confusing time. Do you know what? Just reach out. Even if it's to drive through a Starbucks when you're really, kind of in that place, so you have a little bit of a human contact, reach out, borrow somebody's dog, take it for a walk. As soon as you open up your heart, honestly, love and healing can come in.
Thank you so much. And again, let's make sure people know to go to CyndiDale.com, and it's CYNDI.
Spelled like Whopper, except I don't sing.
Oh, then you and I can do a show
where
we
that's not
sing.
true, Cyndi. Come on, everybody can.
Come on, Benny, right? I even sing.
I'm the singing to the radio, and both my boys would turn the radio off.
They're just jealous.
Yeah. Linda will travel 1,000 square feet in my house, 1,000 square feet to walk in the room to look at me and saying, "Are you really singing?" Cyndi, thank you so much for joining me here. Another fabulous book. And boy, I'm telling you, you got to come back. I got to talk about some of the brainwave stuff. It's so important.
Let's do that. I love the brain waves, the brain states.
I love the brain. I love the brain. Cyndi Dale, I'm Dr. Pat. We're going to take a short break, everybody. We're not done yet. We'll be right back.
All clear.